Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to your channel dedicated to space, which will inevitably be filled with lots of amazing achievements in 2024. So do tune in to learn more about it. Now, this week's episode will continue with a short review of our solar system with Jupiter. We will discuss, of course, Starbase activities, along with JAXA XRISM first test images and ULA maiden flight preparation, to finally end with launches of the week and a space image which will blow your mind. In the quest to learn the basics about our solar systems for our beginners in astronomy, this week we shall focus on the fifth planet from the Sun, Jupiter. Jupiter is by far the largest planet in the solar system, some 11 times bigger, 318 times heavier, and 5.2 times further away from the Sun than Earth. Jupiter's temperature averages at minus 145 degrees Celsius or minus 234 degrees Fahrenheit. His atmosphere is made up of 90% hydrogen and 10% helium. His gravity is 2.5 times greater than Earth, meaning that a 100 kilogram person on Earth would feel a weight of 240 kilograms on Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's environment is probably not conducive to life as we know it, and the temperatures, pressures, and materials that characterize this planet are most likely too extreme and volatile for organisms to adapt to. So Jupiter has the shortest day in the solar system. One day on Jupiter takes about 10 hours, and Jupiter makes a complete orbit around the Sun, or a year in Jovian time, in about 12 Earth years, or 4,333 Earth days. His equator is tilted with respect to his orbital path around the Sun by just 3 degrees. This means Jupiter spins nearly upright and does not have seasons as extreme as other planets do. In contrast, Earth is tilted by just 23.5 degrees. As a gas giant, Jupiter doesn't have a true surface. The planet is mostly swirling gases and liquids, and is surrounded by thick layers of clouds, probably containing ammonia ice, ammonium hydrosulfide crystals, and water ice and even vapor. NASA scientists believe that Jupiter is swept by powerful winds, some reaching up to 540 kilometers per hour or 335 miles per hour at the equator. Now, Jupiter's enormous magnetic field is between 16 and 40 times as powerful as that on Earth. It rotates with the planet and sweeps up particles that have an electric charge. Now, his magnetic field also causes some of the solar system's most spectacular aurora at the planet's pole, as seen on these pictures. Jupiter cannot support life, but some of his moons have oceans beneath their crust that might support life. Jupiter has actually, to date, 95 recorded moons. The 4 largest moons of Jupiter are Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, all tidally locked with Jupiter, like the Earth and its moons are. They were first observed by the astronomer Galileo Galilei in 1610, using obviously a rudimentary type of telescope. Io is the most volcanically active body in the solar system and is covered with sulfur, and sulfur dioxide. It takes Io about 42.5 hours or 1.77 days to complete one orbit around Jupiter. It has a thin atmosphere mainly composed of sulfur dioxide. Europa is known for containing liquid water oceans with the ingredients for life beneath its frozen crust. It also has a very thin atmosphere composed primarily of oxygen. Europa has a full revolution on its axis taking 85 hours. It has 13% of the Earth's gravity, meaning that a 100 kilogram person would feel like weighing just 13 kilograms. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, even bigger than the planet Mercury. It rotates on its axis in 7 days and 3 hours. Ganymede has a thin oxygen atmosphere and is composed of rocky material and mostly water ice. It also has the ability to support life, as per NASA scientists. Then Callisto's very few small crater indicates a small degree of current surface activities. So Callisto has a very tenuous atmosphere composed of carbon dioxide, and its surface is made of approximately equal amount of rock and ice. It has a day lasting 16.7 Earth days. Now, for one revolution of Callisto around Jupiter, Ganymede rotates twice more, Europa 4 times more, and Io 8 times more. At Starbase, after the static fires of Booster 10 and Starship 28, the launch pad is still looking undamaged, as you can see on the aerial pictures. An old vertical water tank was removed. As planned, launch mount chopsticks are getting a fresh coat of paint, and the Star Factory is getting another section expansion. Starship 30 was sent to Massey site to join Booster 12 for testing, and Booster 10 was then removed from the launch mount and rolled back to the megabay. What is left in the high or megabays are Starship number 29, number 32, and of course Booster 10. So SpaceX have enough to be getting on with until they learn from the flight testing and their Star Factory is completed. JAXA, in partnership with NASA and ESA, has sent the X-ray Imaging and Spectroscopy Mission Satellite, or XRISM for short, in September 2023. It is designed to detect X-rays with energies from 400 electron volt to 12,000 electron volts. For comparison, visible light, what the human eyes can see, is just 2 to 3 electron volts. This week, JAXA has provided us with the first 2 test images taken from Able 2319, an area which is 3 million light-year wide, basically a group of galaxies that is clouded by million degrees X-ray emitting gases. The first image is to show the difference between what XRISM is seeing in purple inside the square and what telescopes would see based on typical cameras. XRISM's other image was the supernova remnant N132, which sits in the Large Magellanic Cloud about 160,000 light-years away. Now, N132 is thought to be about 3,000 years old. It is the colorful remnant of a star about 15 times the mass of the Sun, which died when it ran out of fuel, collapsed, and then violently exploded. XRISM is promising to provide scientists with an amazing amount of cosmic information, More to come in further episodes of Espace News. ULA is carrying on with rehearsals of his infrastructure ahead of his maiden flight next week of the Vulcan Centaur from Pad 41 in Cape Canaveral in Florida. I will of course cover this spectacular event in the next week's episode. Last rocket launch of the year was a launch by China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation of a Long March 2C from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in China, with 3 communication satellites, officially described as Satellite Internet Technology Demonstration, manufactured by CAST, operating at 50-degree and sun-synchronous orbit. China has really pushed their launches towards the end of last year compared to other nations, and this was the 222nd rocket launch of the year 2023, all countries combined. ISRO in India has kicked off with the first rocket launch of the year 2024 of its EXPOSAT satellite on board a Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, flight number 58, on Monday the 1st of January from Pad 1 at the Satish Dhawan Space Center on the Sriharikota Island in India into a sun-synchronous orbit at 97.6 degree inclination. The X-ray Polymeter Satellite, or EXPOSAT, is an Indian observatory aimed at studying many bright X-ray sources such as a black hole and neutron stars, amongst others. This was the first time ISRO launched payloads dedicated to X-ray polarimetry. January the 3rd, SpaceX launched 21 Starlink V2 mini satellites to circular low Earth orbit at 530 km altitude and 43-degree inclination for his Mission Group 7-9 on board a Falcon 9 from his Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The first stage was brand new and landed 642 km downrange on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You. You might have noticed that this time the Starlink launch from Vandenberg is not sending 22 satellites, but rather 21. It's because it will include the first 6 of slightly larger Starlink satellite with direct-to-cell capabilities that will enable mobile network operators around the world to provide seamless global access to texting, calling, and browsing wherever you may be on land, lakes, or coastal waters, according to SpaceX. This will be first rolled out on T-Mobile customers. On the same day, a Falcon 9 of SpaceX has sent a Swedish satellite of Zone 3 from its Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida to a geostationary transfer orbit to finally be residing in geostationary orbit at 59.7 degrees east inclination. The booster landed for his 10th time back to site at landing zone 1. Of Zone 3 is a communication satellite which will cover 1/3 of the Earth via its steerable spot beams, meeting the demand for better mobile broadband coverage in underserved regions. Friday 5th of January, X-Space launched a Kaizu 1A from his Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in China with onboard 4 additional Tianmu-1 satellites for meteorology forecasting, therefore completing the satellite network. The satellites were delivered in his sun-synchronous orbit along with the existing 18 other satellites. A colorful, festive image showed different types of light containing the remaining of not one but at least 2 exploded stars. This supernova is called 30 Doradus B, located 160 1,000 light-years away from Earth in the large Magellanic Cloud, a small satellite galaxy of the Milky Way, where stars have been continuously forming for the past 8 to 10 million years. This image was made by combining X-ray data from NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory in purple, optical data from the Blanco 4-meter telescope in Chile in orange and cyan, and infrared data from NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope in red. Optical data from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope was also added in black and white to highlight sharp features in the image. The data revealed high-energy shock and winds of particles blowing away from the pulsar, creating what is known as a pulsar wind nebula, as well as no single supernova explosion could explain what is being seen. This result can help astronomers learn more about the lives of massive stars and the effect of their supernova explosions. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Espace News, the channel dedicated to inform you on space technology, rocket launches, light astronomy, and space news. Have a great week and see you next week. Goodbye.